In this moment, as we quiet our souls together, I'm going to ask you if you could just close your eyes. And while they are closed, if you would try to, well, I don't want to say try to because that's not as effortless as I hope this will be. I want you to reflect on somebody who made a difference in your life. And maybe you don't even understand why they put themselves out to do that. And just to give you an example, I am thinking of Mr. Murray. Larry Murray was my high school counselor at Channel Islands High School in Oxnard. For some reason, he believed in me. He gave me the advice that I guess what counselors are supposed to do. He saw my inclinations. He advised against me going to a university in the Midwest or in the South, or he said I needed to be in a coastal university. That's one reason I was at UC Santa Barbara. But because we were not a family of people going to university, he helped. He came over the house. He helped my mom fill out forms. He took me out on his boat with his sons. He let me take the helm, and I had not even ever been on a boat before. And so the late Larry Murray was a big deal, is a big deal in my life right now. If you just in your heart can just think of somebody who believed in you or placed energy in you. Yeah. So here we are. Today, we are gathered from different rooms, different cities, different continents. Diane and I are with you from Cape Town, South Africa. Table Mountain at our back, the Atlantic between us, different time zones. In a way, we are so far apart, and yet we are so close to one another. In Christ, we are located, we are found, we are named, we are welcomed, we are called friend. And that could be especially good news today because there are seasons in life when a person can feel dislocated even while doing what they know is right. You can be exactly where you are meant to be and still feel the strangeness of standing in a new place. You can trust that God has led you and still feel a bit of dislocation in the relocation. Yeah. So I am preaching a word that I can use today. Diane and I are in the right place, and we are also in a new place. Both can be true. And I suspect that this is true not just for a couple of people moving to a new city, but for many of us who are trying to live bravely during these unpredictable times. So, can we hear this word together? Jesus used the image of a wedding feast to picture God's dream, the beloved community. And Jesus begins by noticing. I quote, when he noticed how the guests picked the places of honor at the table, he told them this parable. So before Jesus teaches, he watches the room. Before he speaks, he pays attention. He notices how people arrange themselves. He notices who moves toward honor. He notices who seems secure. He notices who waits near the edge of the room. He notices the invisible map of the tables. Every table has a map. Every room is mapped. Every society is mapped. Could a Zoom space be mapped? Who feels free to speak? Who hesitates? Who has been listened to before? Who has learned not to expect their opening? Jesus notices all of it because so much of our pain begins in being mapped out, unseen, unseen in your gifts, unseen in your grief, unseen in your exhaustion, unseen in your humanity. Now, we don't have a head table here. We're gathered in these little rectangles from different places, carrying different burdens. Some cameras are on, some are off. Some voices come easy, some are quiet. Some arrive joyful, some arrive tired. Some carry grief no one else can see. And still, the Spirit notices the room. That's grace. Some of us are dislocated by estrangement or racism or ableism or illness or grief or political cruelty. Some by migration, some by the loss of a role we thought would always be ours. Others are dislocated more quietly, present, but not quite held, visible, but not quite seen, nearby, but not quite welcomed. And somebody on this call today knows what I'm talking about. And all I have to do is affirm it. God says to you, I see you. I got you. And then Jesus leans toward the one watching from the edge of the room. And he says, move up higher. He says, friend, move up higher. When Jesus notices the guests and he sees some of them choosing places of honor, listen, I don't see contempt in him. Now, there was a time when I might have preached this text differently. When I was a young pastor, I had mistaken Western religion for the gospel. And so my bookshelves were full of white men. So was my mind. So was the Jesus I was preaching. It took years and it took other voices to free me. Howard Thurman, James Cone, Jacqueline Grant. And not only theologians, Frantz Fanon, James Baldwin. James Baldwin said, to be a Negro in this country and to be relatively conscious is to be in a rage almost all the time. Well, that was 65 years ago, and it's still true. It can be exhausting. But the healers have been near us as well, including true allies. Thank you, Jesus. For the record, each year I read some 20 books written by women, mostly Black and other minoritized women, not as a project, but as a need, because the God who meets Hagar at the spring is not on the empire's syllabus. Dear ones, let me be straight with you. And I also want to share some heartfelt sorrow. I am fatigued by Western influenced voices within the house of God. It is so easy to settle for atrocities when we live in an empire that routinely destroys other countries. I could say with religious sanction, and our minds would maybe instantly go to white Christian nationalism, but it goes beyond that. A country that destroys other countries. We destroyed the Haitians. We destroyed the Vietnamese. We profited from South African apartheid. We destroyed Iraqis. We are destroying people right now. May we never stop naming them. A country that has not yet confronted the tens of millions of indigenous lives lost through violence on this land. A country not yet remorseful for manifest destiny. Still not remorseful for slavery. It is no wonder that such a country is at ease with the disrespect it inflicts upon African Americans. That is my sorrow, the lament. And one reason all of us keep coming together is that many of you are weary as well. If the evil of our age does not grieve you, ask the Spirit to soften your heart again. And dear ones, take heart. Christ is calling us into a revival that will not come to us from the empire's library. It will come the way revival only comes, through the voices long unheard. When we listen, it will be a revival of the generosity of friends. So to the women whose names were left off the syllabus, move up higher. To African, Asian, and Latin American theologians like Gustavo Gutierrez, the West called them contextual while calling itself systematic. Move up higher. To indigenous elders like LaDonna Brave Bull Allard, called exotic when they were teachers. Move up higher. To Henrietta Lacks, to Rosa Parks, to that fierce Jewish mother, Judith Lesner, to Hagar at the spring, hearing her own name from the all-seeing God, move up higher. These days, I read the passage with tenderness. When I see the guests scrambling for places of honor, I see human beings trying to be somebody, and who among us doesn't know that hunger? When the world feels uncertain, we reach for signs that we matter. We want to be respected. We want our life to count. Jesus understands that need. But alongside that hunger is another, the craving to be near the head table, near the room where the decisions get made. Power offers what looks like belonging, and the cost is expensive and quiet. You get your seat of proximity by staying silent about the Israeli state, about the children, about profits that systems sideline. Now, I have felt both hungers, and I've tried to choose the right thing. And you know what? I have. And sometimes not even noticing until afterward that I chose the right thing. Jesus understands both kinds of hunger, and he wants to free us from the stress of the rush and help us to find peace. So Jesus says, when someone invites you to a wedding feast, Do not take the place of honor. Take the lower place. Then the host may come and say, friend, move up higher. Friend. That word is the sound of grace and release. And before it comforts us, it frees us. Humility here is not humiliation, it is relief. The relief of not having to climb, the relief of not having to prove our worth in every space, the relief of trusting that our place is given by God, not seized from someone else. You don't have to. Hear me now. You don't have to. You don't have to compete your way into belovedness. You don't have to be impressive to be precious. This is good news in a weary time. And then Jesus turns his notice from the guests to the host. Look, it's one thing for the guests to take a lower seat. It's another thing for the host to set out more seats and to set them for people who can't pay you back. Ask ourselves, do we only welcome people who can repay us, confirm us, make us more comfortable? Or can our welcome reach beyond the circle of repayment? Hear me on this. The question is for us. Whose face is not on this Zoom yet that should be? Who is in our own communities and our own families, and they haven't been told that there's a seat with their name on it? A new place, but the right place. We wait to be invited, but the invitations are in our hands. In a dislocated world, Jesus gives us a table where no one has to climb or prove or perform in order to be called friend. Where Black women are not asked to make themselves smaller before they are heard. Where disabled bodies are not an afterthought, but they are indispensable. Where the grieving are not asked to become cheerful before they are welcome. Makes me think of an old song that sings about this table. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Well, listen, I know that our church knows about this table because there's tenderness here. There is care for people the world overlooks. This is holy ground. It is the gospel already alive among us. So I don't hear Jesus scolding us. I hear Jesus blessing what is already here and inviting it to grow. For a church on Zoom, our hospitality becomes kind of a holy noticing. We notice names. We notice absence. We notice silence without judging it. We notice who may need a call or note, a prayer, a little space. We notice that a camera off does not mean someone is far away. We notice that quiet is not always disengagement. And in whatever ways we can, we say to one another, friend, there is room for you here. Not because you're feeling strong, not because you can give something back, simply because you are beloved. Move up higher. This is the table Jesus gives. And the good news is Jesus does not only teach this table, Jesus is this table. He is the guest who takes the lowest place. He is the host who invites those who cannot repay. He is the one who finds people in their dislocation, the sick, the grieving, the weary, people standing at the edge, wondering whether the invitation includes them. And when Jesus finds them, he does not say, prove yourself. He says, friend. That word is the sound heard by the person who thought the table was for other people, the one who had stopped expecting an invitation, the brave soul who thought they had to keep climbing. The miracle is not only that the lowly are lifted, The miracle is that the anxious are freed from climbing and comparing, freed to receive our own place as a gift. Because we have all been welcomed by a grace we cannot pay. You and I, we did not earn our seat at the table of God. We were discovered, located in our own dislocation. We were called friends. So, can we let Jesus give us relief? Relief from the fear that our place is insecure, and then from that relief, let us become a table of relief for others. In a dislocated world, may this congregation be a sign of God's dream. A Zoom space, yes. A scattered table, yes. But also a place where the weary can rest from climbing. Christ has found us in our dislocation, welcomed us when we could not repay, and called us friend. So I want to say to each one, and maybe somebody is especially tired, I want to say to the global majority that Christ is waiting on humanity to hear, friend, why don't you just go ahead and move up higher? Amen.
Well, Pastor Moore, you said so much, and it really impacted me. I would say, of all the things you said, the one that really resonated the most with me and maybe others is you don't have to compete your way into belovedness. And I think that that is such a revelation for a capitalist society where those are all the messages that we hear about competition, and realizing that God is about liberating us. Hi, Gloria.
Dad made you a dog pancake.
Oh, I get a dog pancake. Yay. Thank you. Tell your dad thank you. Um, See, and I was not even expecting to get food this morning and I got a pancake. So so I just think that is such a balm for our hearts and for our souls because in every space you go to, I know I notice, especially when I'll be invited to like an organizational meeting, in the climate space and the environmental space, and I see how few of us who are people of color are there. Um, and so it's a reminder that God sees us and wants us to be at the table and at a good place. So yeah, just wondering if anybody else has situations where they have felt the same. That same,
Hey, Ana Rosa, you just
yeah,
reminded me of something that I used to hear Webb say. In fact, Webb and I, not everybody here knows Webb Mealy, but he was part of our church in Santa Barbara before he moved eastward. But we still talk about once a month, and Webb will frequently bring up that, and this guy, he puts his money where his mouth is. Remember, he's the guy that drove a car that ran on what, vegetable oil or something. He modified, so he was serious. But Webb would frequently tell me that the environmental movement has become a place for white folks to ignore white supremacy so that they can focus on something else.
100%. Yes. I see Bonnie's hand.
I just wanted to say, about being invited to the table. Um, if there's one thing that's different for you guys is if somebody's moved a chair already and there's a space for a wheelchair, that's where I'm supposed to sit. Um, that's a big deal sometimes because that's near the host or near, sometimes it's not, but that's okay. And also I appreciate um, like First Congregational Church, and they've always done this. I've been in different Congo churches, and they don't have a long table, or they just have these tables separate so that you can sit wherever and you're all equal. I mean, you're all it's not a hierarchy or anything like that.
No head
Um,
table.
right, except for maybe the bride and groom. But I mean, and that's a small table. They'll have the bride and groom and the guy giving the toast or woman giving the toast, and maybe one other person. Maybe the parents of both or something. But that's it. That's it. I mean, it's just there's no um, uh, favoritism. Not a thing like that. And also. I've noticed, when I'm in a group that is uh, showing up for like ecology or whatever, I'm on the outside. It's okay. I mean, I don't have a lot to say, and I just kind of notice it because I use things like plastic. I have to medically.
Bonnie, it's hard for me to believe you don't have a lot to say.
Oh, sorry. Am I talking too much?
No, I'm just saying you said it's okay to be basically to be ignored because you don't have a lot to say. It's hard for me to get that.
Well,
Not the Bonnie
I
I
have
know.
a, yeah, I'm too bashful to bring up the plastic and bring up certain things that I need that is not environmentally acceptable to most people. And it's difficult, and if I did say something, I think it would set me apart even more, you know,
Mm.
um, and it's a real mixed bag is what it is. Um, there was something else I was going to say about seating, but I forgot. So
Well, I think
anyway.
what you're bringing up in that conversation is I think a lot of environmental organizations really talk about personal responsibility, and not that that doesn't have a place. However, corporations pollute way, 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 way more than any individual does.
Yeah.
So, but it takes more power to change those things, and it takes more structural change. And
Mhm.
so it's like let's take the fights to where we really need to take them and build the power that we need to in order to change those things.
Okay.
And make sure that people don't feel like if they're recycling, but
Mhm.
corporations are still polluting our planet and getting away with it. Like
Mhm.
that's the imbalance.
Okay.
And I see Julian Clint's hand, and just one thing I wanted to say on this is Pastor Moore, I was reaching out to him about, oh, Butchware, right? Because I just heard him speak on a podcast that I was listening to called Higher Learning. And he's like, yeah, but you let me know that he was not my neighbor anymore. And somehow we got into a back and forth conversation where I was saying that you would be amazing for elected office. And then you said, well, you would be. And it's like, I've been there, and I just remember how tough it felt to be surrounded by people who are just trying to climb a ladder and not actually create change. And how isolating that felt because they would warn me about certain stances I was taking because they'd say like if you want to run for higher office that's not going to be good for you. And I'm like, I already said what I'm here for. I'm here to address the police brutality issue, and I'm here to address the environmental issues in our community. Like all that stuff is like a whole other conversation. But I think that there's so many of us who we are more concerned in being in beloved community and not about that ladder. But
Mhm.
capitalism has fooled so many of us to think that that's the only way to operate in this world. Um, but we know we are part of a different world that we're trying to create. So, Julian Clint?
Oops. Where did they go?
There we go.
I'm here. Good morning. Um, Good morning, everyone. Pastor Moore, thank you so much. I have so many thoughts, so I tried to write them down. The first was this feeling of, you know, you described it so well, being in this new place where you know you're supposed to be here, but you feel very out of place. Okay, so how about me and my accent? Apparently, right? Everybody says to me, "Oh, I could tell you're not from around here, right? Uh, Same thing like when I first landed, I was looking for like Dunkin' Donuts. They're on the East Coast, they're on every street corner, you know? And there's like one Dunkin' Donuts in Santa Maria, you know? So I quickly realized that's not how people roll around here. Nobody's like, jalapenos and everything. That was completely different, you know? You don't have jalapenos on the menu in the East Coast. So it was just, and then the lack of pizza, I'm sorry to say.
What,
I
you don't
can't
like
get good
Domino's?
pizza.
Uh,
Oh my
no, it
God.
does not compare to New York
No, it does
pizza.
not. So, and being in that space, it is scary. You know what I mean? It's very uncomfortable. Being I didn't even realize it would be so uncomfortable because I am confident in my space, but being so feeling different, uh, you know, it makes it so how do you say important to have community, you know? And so then we take that back to when I met you guys, like Clint had just gotten out of prison. And you guys held him in very high regard. You know what I'm saying? So I said, all right, just like you said, how Jesus is the observer, I admire that and try to live by that. So I observe first. Then I observe how you welcomed him, how he welcomes me, and then how you guys welcomed me when both of us couldn't repay. There was nothing that we could contribute other than
Ourselves.
this is who I am. You know what I'm saying? And you welcome that. You were like, Julia, we want to hear from you. I'm like, really? Really? Like you guys are worldly and and what could I possibly have to contribute? But now I am past that because um the community, the beloved community and the grace that you described, you were the host like Jesus. You know what I'm saying? You played all those roles. You sat back and let him and I say, come to the front. You know what I mean? And we watch you do that for other people. That's how we learn to do that for other people, because you're the teacher and you're helping us learn. And then you're also willing to learn from us. So it's so precious. And I'm so grateful. So
Small, quick. I love you, sir. And you're glowing. You're glowing, you're glowing, you're glowing. And I'm
I
gonna tell
thought
you
the same
something.
thing.
No,
I
he
thought
is.
the same
He
thing.
is. And you
You
know what that
are.
is? You know what that is? That's God's will. You know what? It's that leap of faith you take when you're not sure if it's gonna work out. But you know what? God says, please, just trust me. She's done it. I've done it, and there's a feeling that comes from it. And sure, there's fear involved, but fear is not. They say you can't have fear and faith at the same time. I loved your message. Yes, you can. That's when you need to have faith the most is when you're in the middle of the fear, because God's self-reliance does not serve me. Self-reliance is what gets me into trouble. When I trust God, everything else falls into place. I may not understand it, but that comfort that's inside, that internal, I'm doing God's will right now. It makes you glow. And I love you, sir. Thank
mhm.
you.
You know what, Clint? I love you too. And, part of the glow, um, it was Diane could tell you, it was a very stressful day in so many ways. Just moving to a new place. I mean, moving to across town is a huge deal, but
Yeah.
across the world. And so I had a stressful day. My credit card was being declined. Um, I couldn't get the SIM card, couldn't get the phone working. And I was trying to talk to people and and then I came back to the room around 5 o'clock with food. And Diane said, I didn't know you were going to get dinner. I said, I had to get my blood sugar back. I didn't want to come and join you all and be grouchy. So that's the kind of day. So the glow is the food that we had. No, that's just part of it.
All right, Matt and then Bonnie.
Uh, well, um, Pastor, I want to acknowledge your sorrows. I think when you share your sorrows, it transforms you from pastor to brother. In the sense of like, it's not a teacher trying to teach us something. It's saying you're here on the ground with us, and that's its own teaching in its own way. But your message reminded me of I had a mentor named Nicola Torbett, who worked with Webb in Oakland, alongside Elise um, uh, Picard, I think is. Anyways, and she often would remind me as like kind of a perspective catcher of like she always said, be like a worm. The worms are happy in dirt. You know, worms are in community. Worms are revitalizing and enriching the dirt. They don't have any other purpose other than doing their purpose of enriching the dirt and being worm. And so it's a little oversimplification, but it's to me, it's a reflection on humility and not getting this grandiose kind of perspective of this mission and purpose and these systems and what it means to just be grounded in community and to be present with our purpose of being human and being present in our sorrow. And so just your example in that and your ability to acknowledge the rage within you, as Baldwin said, you know, and to take that step towards freedom, um, to step outside of white supremacy. There's a freedom when you can imagine life outside of white supremacy that I wish and pray for you, and I think that you already have, but it's going to deepen for you, and it's going to enrich us. And so you're definitely acknowledging that, and yeah, just really appreciate that. I think oh yeah, I think just personally your message was like inspiring to me. Like there's a book idea that I want to do called Utmost for His Lowest. And I'd love to twist that and kind of make it an anthology of people that have been dislocated in their lives, and just kind of have different stories of people that share that. And this message was just like it could be the forward to that book. So I just really appreciate that inspiration to kind of return back to that idea.
I love you, Matt.
I love you
I
too.
appreciate you so much. You know, you mentioned Baldwin again. For the sake of brevity, because you know, sometimes I go through my sermon, my notes, and